All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy. I'm your host, Omar. I'm a little bit out of breath right now because I just finished doing a little mini workout. Right, get the blood flowing. Uh, okay, so messages popped up on the screen. But today there's some pretty cool stuff I want to talk about. I mean, we've been talking about leadership. We've been talking about different facets of leadership, anything from hiring, interviewing, um, managing, right? Uh, Inspect what you expect. We're talking performance as well. Today, really what I want to do is talk about, excuse me, uh, why most district managers are just glorified firefighters. Be real, okay? We talked about putting out fires and the reason that a lot of some regional directors, right, when they're smaller, maybe smaller company, or they have newer district managers or area managers in the role. But our job as district sales managers, as DMs, as area managers, regional directors, it's not to put out fires. If you're putting out fires, you're not doing a good job. That's what it is. That's what it comes down to. If you're consistently running fire drills of needing to hit certain KPIs, we're behind on this. If you're constantly doing that, yeah, you're not running a good market. You're not running a good district. You're struggling, right? You might be able to put fire under people to perform, but you're burning people out. Guaranteed, you have high churn rates. I guarantee you have employees that are constantly leaving, and maybe they come back in the future, but they're not going to stick around for a very long time if you're in the role. That's just the way it is. And you'd be surprised by they do so much better in different areas or under different leadership. It wasn't them. That's just what it comes down to, right? And if you're putting out fires, you're just babysitting. You're not leading anybody. That's the big issue. Uh, and you're stuck in a reactionary mode. You're not being proactive. You're not trying to get ahead of change. You're not trying to come out on top and make sure that your team is actually capable of driving results. You're reacting to everything that's being thrown your way from your leadership, from the organization, from all the change that's happening, right? Especially right now with a lot of macroeconomic changes that we're seeing everywhere. You can't deny that right now people are just not buying as much as they used to. It doesn't matter if it's a small subset, 10, 20% of our population not spending as much funds as they were before makes a huge difference. It does. Uh, so get out of the way. That's what you got to do as a DM. You got to get out of the way. We've talked about us not being the hero in the story. We can be the hero to the organization because we've brought about change, but to your team, you're not a hero. You're a guide, you're a mentor. They are the heroes of the story. Your store managers, your assistant managers, your actual sellers, right? Your um, undercover leaders, if you want to say, right? Your first followers. They're the heroes of the story. They're the ones who deserve the praise when things are going good, especially in times like these where macroeconomics play a big role into a lot of things that are changing. Uh, Give me a second, some water. But by getting out of the way, you stop becoming the bottleneck to your teams. You stop becoming that bottleneck to their performance, where they can actually thrive and get to. Because if they can't function without you, you're just managing chaos. You're not letting your teams adapt. You're not letting them grow. You're not letting them evolve and become the leaders and the sellers that they can be. You're just not. They're not being self-sufficient in what they need to get done. When you have self-sufficient leaders at your locations, self-sufficient teams, they don't need you involved in order to get things done. You can set the expectation, hey, we need this done. And if they need assistance, they'll gladly reach out. They'll know, like, all right, I'm a little over my head in this one. Let me get some help. They're going to reach out to their local leadership, their peers. And if they can't figure it out, they're going to come to you because they're trying to problem solve. That's the beautiful aspect. They're problem solving. All right. Uh, Now, if you can't get out of the way and you can't allow your team to be problem solvers, what are you doing? I got into a role as a district manager not to work more. It wasn't to work less. You still have responsibilities that need to get done. But the amount of work I have to do decreased for the amount of performance that I got back. That's where you want to get to. Okay. Now, if you've ever, as a leader, let me know in the comments if you've ever had to drop everything to handle something that a store couldn't or that the store should have owned, like the store manager or assistant manager. Comment team in the sections, right? I want to know. That's a big thing for people. As a district manager, you don't know how often, and I still see it, where DMs have to drop things to head to a location that's underperforming, that's not hitting quota, or they're behind on inventory, whatever the case is, right? Where you have to drop it and go help them. It sucks. It really does. Uh, and the thing is, guys, your team doesn't need to be motivated more. There's only so much you can do with motivation. And Zig Ziglar said it best, right? If you think motivation doesn't work, it works to a certain extent. It's like taking a shower. If you never take a shower, you're going to stink. But if you take a shower every so often, you won't stink. You can't just take a shower once and expect never to stink for the whole year. Same thing with motivating people. You can motivate people, but if you're consistently needing to motivate people, there's something wrong there. You need to develop a system in place that allows people to be able to self-motivate themselves. And a system gives people a lot of different things, including confidence that they've built by completing tasks, by being able to do things on their own. That's a huge thing. Uh, and momentum, just like showers, right? They're temporary. It's fleeting. It's not there 100% of the time. And that's where people get stuck. But when you build a system, you build structures. You're building a structure, you're building a system that will be in place. It doesn't have to be rigid. It can change, it could adapt, right? Once again, I'm a big, big firm believer in frameworks because frameworks are very adaptable. But if you build a system, you build a structure, that will build habits, and habits form over a long period. Long period is subjective, right? Could be a week, could be a month. You'd be very surprised at how fast these habits form. And that's where you get actual success. Not by coming in and rah, 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 not by jumping on GroupMe or Teams and blasting out and barking out orders. Building habits. And you build habits through having a system. Uh, and when you have a system, you're executing daily wins. You're able to go from, needing to pump people up on phone calls, on DMs, messages, to having those actual wins coming through by them executing because they're taking the initiative, they're moving, they're running with the ball. And that happens through coaching, training, and developing. You're able to build that up over time. And at first, I've said it, if you've never done it, or if you've never been properly introduced to doing training and development, to doing coaching, it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel weird. People are going to wonder what the hell is going on. Um, what do I do now? What do I do next? You as a leader will also have that, where you're not sure how you're going to go things or do things. But once you get there, you'll find out. It's very easy. It's conversations. It's uncovering little changes that can occur and giving people that guidance and allowing them to see the change from within. That's the hard part some people have because some people are so used to being so in control, being the bottleneck for the performance that they need to tell the person what it is they need to do to get the performance. And I get it. You see the big picture. I've been there. I know what that's like. They do not have any ownership when you give them the order, when you tell them what to do. It's okay for them to fail and not take ownership over the failure because that wasn't something I agreed to. That wasn't something that I said I would do. You told me that's what you wanted. I tried to do it. I didn't hit it. Okay, whatever. But when they say it, when they take ownership, when they come up with a plan of action, when they take the action steps, when they visualize those steps, and then they achieve that success, that onus is on them. And they love it. They're taking control of their destiny. They're manifesting their future. And that's what you do as a leader. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to focus on. And it's easy to do through training and development, right? And that's how you'll go from trying to create these one pop momentums through rah, 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 right? But you'll have a change from that. You'll still do it from once in a while, right? Give your team shout outs, give them kudos. But now they're executing on their own. You're on vacation and they're still performing without you. That's a win, right? Uh, and then your team's hitting the right KPIs when they're doing that. Like how how much better can you be when your team can perform at a level that your company thought they'll never get to without replacing the entirety of the team and they flipped it around. Why? Because now they have a leader that believes in them. They have a leader that's willing to invest time in training and developing the team, them as individuals and them as a team, because there's different aspects of it. And that's where you're going to get the change in performance. Uh, and you don't need to be in the store consistently to do this. That's, I think, the hardest part for a lot of us too, especially if you're first starting off to truly understand because you're so used to having to physically be there to drive performance as a store manager. You have a lot of, I need to be there in order for them to actually get anything done. They won't hit these numbers if I'm not there consistently watching what they do. And that's not on you per se, right? Part of that is because your leadership didn't know how to develop you. They just threw you out into the wolf, into, the ocean. They threw you to the wolves, figure it out, and you developed something that you thought would work. And maybe it did for your small team because there was something else outside of you consistently being there and badgering people that they're like, okay, at least, they're not that half bad. They're not as bad as the fucking DM. So as long as I perform with them, we don't have to deal with the DM. You'd be surprised how often that is. Okay. But when you stop being the bottleneck, when you stop having to be so present for them to perform, they start to drive those results. That performance will be there. And when you show up to do your visits, you're doing it in non-peak hours. You're doing it when you know they won't be getting a rush. Okay. In the mornings, right? Mid-afternoons, before or in between the peak rushes we know they get, you're doing your visits, you're getting things taken care of, and you're out of their hair so that they can deal with customers and clients during those peak times, those peak hours of the day. That is what coaching, that is what training and developing your team can get you. Um, and I'm not saying never be present, right? You're being strategic about the times that you're there. And that's where you're going from being an individual doer, right? I have to constantly be there. I need to put out the fires. The team can't get anything done when I'm not present. To a developer, you're training people, you're developing people. You've heard me say this over and over again. Your job as a leader is to train and develop people to replace you. When they can replace you, you're doing an amazing job because you're giving them not only opportunity to grow, but you're also showing the organization that you have people that not only can take your place, they can go somewhere else and do what you've trained them to do, what you've helped develop them to do. So now, instead of needing to consistently try to look for outside people to bring in, they have talent, internal talent that they can grow and develop even further, which expands the company faster because they have the tribal knowledge that outside people won't have, either from the industry or from the specific company. Tribal knowledge is huge, guys. If you don't know what tribal knowledge is a knowledge that's not written down, the knowledge that's not in the training material, right? You guys know, just like I do, we have all these e-learnings that are taken, right? All these online courses when you first begin the company's job, or for the most part, right? If they've developed some kind of training or curriculum, they have uh, some of this type of material that you'll take so that you can be in compliance with them. But there's so much that's missing from it because they're just trying to rush a bunch of information down your throat that you're not, one, going to retain all the information. Two, most of the information's incorrect. On a superficial level, on the surface, it seems correct. But once you get into the nitty gritty things, into the actual processes, into how things work, you start to notice that there's certain things that are broken. Um, and in order to get things done, you have to go different routes. You have to contact somebody else. Or outside of submitting this, you also need to follow up this way. And that will ensure it gets taken care of instead of being swept under the rug or forgotten about, right? Squeaky wheel gets the grease type of situation. Uh, but for you, if you're looking to grow your market, whether it's a small area, whether it's a district or a region, if you're looking to grow, you need to have leaders in place to be able to take those roles. You need to be able to allow people growth and be able to see that. Because the worst thing you want to do is find out that, hey, you're doing so well that you got three pop-ups coming up, right? Three white spaces uh, that you got coming over, or that you're taking over three new locations in your area that your company just purchased, but you got no leaders to put in that place. So what do? If you're like old school people, you're taking your top sellers and you're promoting them to leadership. And then you wonder why their performance is bad and why their teams suck. I know because I've seen it. Okay. And you have to have the right people in place in order for teams to thrive, and to drive momentum, to drive performance. It doesn't mean it's always going to be your top salesperson. As an individual contributor, yes, they do amazing. Teaching other people what they do, how they do it, is very difficult for them because people don't think like you do. People don't think like they do. And they're so stuck in their ways because it's work for them that they want other people to do it themselves, do what they did themselves. And they won't because they don't have the same background. They don't have the same story as that individual contributor did. And that's where training people as a leader becomes super important because then you can get them to see different ways of communicating. You can get them to think about training and development from a different perspective. That becomes huge. There is more involvement, there is more time required, especially at the beginning, for training and development. But when you do it appropriately, when you have a framework set up and you have a system, it allows you to get it ingrained and then pull yourself away so that instead of spending 50, 60, 70 hours in the field trying to get your team to perform, you're spending the majority of that managing essentially from afar. Okay. Now you're getting to work on different initiatives that you can actually put out in your district or within the region or within the organization. Now you're focusing on more growth potential by spending more time with a lot of the partner vendors that you have and getting actual feel in the community. You're helping your team grow. You're giving them different opportunities that they didn't have before. That's where you want to be. And imagine having your managers, your leaders, actually be able to take up your coaching for you. So when you have new people start, you don't have to constantly run the new hire trainings. You can have them do it. And that's what I've done before. That's what I've put in place. I've had my training managers at my training locations and had them be able to take over actual coaching of new hires and still be on par with what I was doing. It may not be exactly 100% what I did because you will never have somebody do exactly what you do. So you got to remember that. Okay. That even though they won't do it exactly the way you did, as long as it's good enough, it works. And then you move forward. It's never going to be perfect. So get that out of your head of it's going to be perfect because perfect's not scalable. Good enough is. And good enough will get you over 100% to goal. Will get your KPIs all met. And that's what you're looking for. Now, remember, guys, the goal isn't to manage more, it's to manage less by developing more. If I can develop 10 additional people to be good enough for what I do, that means that even if they're performing at 70% of what I can do as an individual, that is still far more than what I could produce myself. Think about that. 700% performance over what one person can do themselves. That is what that means. That is how I've turned locations around. That's how I turned a location that was doing well, right? 300 to 400 ops a month, units, right? To 700 to 800 on average, not a blip, 700 to 800 units on average. Okay. Think about that growth from taking a location that could barely crack 150 to 200 on a good month to doing 350 to 400 consistently, increasing staff headcount by almost double, and not like on a 1 month blip. Like, no, this is our new staffing model for this area. That's the kind of growth that you could expect once you have a system in place for training and developing. That becomes huge. Now, if you want to build high performing, self sufficient teams and be able to actually finally take a day off without your phone blowing up, take a look at the description. You guys, if you're following me on TikTok, take a look at the bio. Get your free 15-minute coaching form, right, on the website. It's free to use. Download it. It'll walk you through. It's a very easy framework. If you need assistance with it, like I've always said, shoot me a DM, reach out to me. I'll be able to help out. I'll assist, and we can go from there, right? As always, guys, I want to say thanks again for stopping in. I love sharing this information with y'all. If you have any questions, feel free, reach out, shoot me a DM, send a comment. Uh, and don't forget, hit that like and follow button. That way you guys don't miss out on these. And I'll catch you on the next one.